In this video, I want to go over with you what some of these tabs actually can do. So let me bring up the system, and we're going to start with the company setup. Excuse me. There's not much to this. It just allows you to put your company name and address and the company bank in here, so you know who you're operating with. And what we need you to do when you see the month number and actual month, this should be your fiscal year. So it's currently set up so the fiscal year is January to December, because that's typically what most people have. Now let's say you were July to June as a fiscal year. Well, then you could go in and change this to July, and then you could change the next one to August. Now, instead of having to type them all in, do a left click on July, pull down to August. There's a little dot. If you grab that dot and pull all the way down, it'll fill in from September to June. Okay, so makes it a little easier than having to type them all. So wherever if your fiscal year starts in October, you can put October, November, and then pull down. It will follow the months in order. So let me go back and change this to January, February, cover both, get the little dot, drag it down, and we're back. Okay. So the next thing is the equity split. Now, I had told you in an earlier video that this system can allow up to 4 members of an LLC, 4 partners, whatever you want to call them, depending on the structure. If you have a sub-S corporation, it could be 4 stockholders, however you want to define it. So this can be coded in each of the months. So if you were to go to let's go to month 1, you'll see here the equity codes. There's what we call a drop down box with a little arrow. You could drop it down, and if you made an entry, let's say adding to somebody's equity, and it was member 1, you could just put them in there and it would automatically go to member 1. Now, here's a great thing about it. You don't have to leave it as showing it as member 1. We're going to slide over to the chart of accounts tab now, and I'm going to show you what you can do. Now you know the name of the members, so instead of generically member 1, member 2, let's just put some names in, and I'm going to capitalize at least the first letter. Mark, Joe, Jim, Rich. Okay, so now we put names in here. Go back to the equity split. Chart of accounts is right next to equity split. And we've got our names up here, so it automatically fills the names in. And then we'll go to our monthly tabs. Month 1, what's the drop down now? We've got that member 1 was in there before, so now we've got all the names of the people. All right, and as you, let's say, I'm getting a little ahead of things here, but let's say a member puts in $10,000. Well, that would be cash in of $10,000. The account name would be equity, which is you can actually start typing it and it will be in the drop down. You can put equity, cash in, let's say it's 10,000. I code it. All right, I put 1,000 in. I code it as Mark. Let's go back to the equity split, and you see that Mark is credited with the $1,000. So that's the way that operates for the equity split entries. As long as you're using that drop down box and you code it with the proper name, it will show up here. It will give you totals across. It'll total all the entries. If I had 1,000 for each person, total entry would be 4,000. Equity total here would be 4,000. Okay, so maybe I make 3 entries here of 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. The total entry would be 3,000. Then over here would be 4,000. All right, so that's the equity split drop down. You know, so we've got the company setup all set. We've got the equity split tab, and I want to finish the chart of accounts. So going back to the chart of accounts, I have pre-filled account names in this system. It was originally set up for a small real estate investor, and I made sure that I could allow for individuals to actually change it around. Maybe you're not a real estate investor, or maybe even as a real estate investor you want to put different names in your chart of accounts. So what I've done is anything in yellow can be changed. You should not be touching cash. So this chart of accounts actually again goes to a drop down, and I'm going to go show you that. We're going to go to month 1, and down here under account name there's a drop down box, and it shows all of the accounts that are listed in the chart of accounts. So if you go back here, well, let's just take one, I'll show you. Let's say we've got computers as one of them. Okay, so if we go back to the chart of accounts and we change this to automobiles. Now let's go back to month 1 in the drop down. Now we've got automobiles. Okay, so again, this drop down refers back to whatever you put in your chart of accounts. And I have to get into when we make entries later on, I'll get into some things that you want to be careful of if you're going to change the name of one of these accounts in the chart of accounts. You have to be careful about when you actually do it. By the way, if let's say you put a name in here that you didn't mean to, there's a little undo thing up here, and all you have to do is click that. It'll undo the last thing you did. So that's your chart of accounts. You have assets, liabilities, your owner equity, income, and plenty of expense categories. These are all hard coded into this system. You can't just go in and insert a line and add a new account. I would have to do that, and it has a domino effect. It affects every single month. I would have to go in and make sure the coding was correct. So for now, these are the numbers of accounts that you actually have. Be creative. If you have a number of accounts that are similar and you don't have enough account options here, combine some of those similar accounts. So let's go back to the chart of accounts. I want to show you the project codes here and how that works. So I already put in a couple of addresses. It started out as each one would be project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, and so on, up to 12. You could have 12. I identify them initially as projects. It could be 12 buildings, it could be 12 actual apartments. It could be, maybe you're a landscaper. It could be you have 12 customers. You could use it any way you want to help you break down details of your business. So just to give you an idea, and when we go to month 1, you'll see that each month has a project code category and an equity category. I used to have just one code category, broke it up into 2 so that sometimes you can make an entry where maybe there's 2 codes involved. So as an example, the very first example here, I have a project code 2 Maple Street, and equity, it's member 1 equity, because member 1 just put $5,000 into the business, but they want to code each contribution into a particular address right now. So let's say 2 Maple Street is an apartment. So 2 Maple Street gets cash injection, and maybe it's a flip, maybe it's an apartment of $5,000, it's owner equity. So member 1 gets credit for it, as does 2 Maple Street. So that's the $5,000 there in month 1. But toward the end of everything here, and again, you're gonna want to hide columns that you're not using. If we go to the end and say project financials month 1, you'll see that the actual number 123 Main Street is is one project, but we have Maple Street as the second project. So it gets credit for the $5,000, okay, and we have $5,000 in the equity section. So I didn't call this project financials, although if you enter things the correct way, they will be. This will be a balance sheet, this will be an income statement, okay? But sometimes you may do something where you don't want that double entry type thing. Maybe you're just tracking equity, for example. Getting back to month 1, maybe you're just saying, well, look, we're not tracking our equity based on where the money's going. We have one general account, okay? So then we're going to take it out, and member 1 still gets credit for the equity contribution. We'll go here, and we got $5,000, but you go back to the project financials in month 1, and you don't see that anymore. You don't see that equity, so you don't see the cash, okay? So it depends on your coding. If you want it to be financial statements, you can go back and look at this, and if there's something here where the assets don't equal liabilities plus equity, maybe you forgot to code something. But these could also be actual financial statements for each project. So let me go back. So I just went back and changed everything back to the original project. Another tab that we're going to look at is going to be, or a couple more tabs we're going to look at, is going to be in the next video. Okay, I'm trying to break this up into smaller sections.